So a few weeks ago, I was on my way to Washington, D.C. for a conference, and as is my habit, I pick up my cup of Starbucks at the airport, drive my little rollaway suitcase onto the bookstore looking for something to read on the plane. And I got to the bookstore, I was browsing the magazine section, and I found an issue of the Scientific American. Now, I'll admit I'm a nerd, okay? I love the Scientific American, and I was very excited to see an issue there. And when I saw the cover, it said, "It's not a woman's issue." Right up my alley. So I said, hey, I'm going to have some great reading material on my plane ride. So I get on my plane, I read the magazine, and I came across this really fascinating and bothersome article called The Brilliance Trap. So the authors, Andrew Simpiani and Sarah Jane Leslie, came up with this premise that women sometimes are not perceived as brilliant as men. Now, they didn't say that women weren't as brilliant as men, because we know women are brilliant. But they said because of this perception, some women didn't enter certain careers. Now, that sounded bothersome to me. They also said, as part of their research, they looked at professors.com, and they found that when students rate their professors, they rate their men professors as brilliant and genius, and they rate their women professors as amazing and excellent. Again, I know the Scientific American is a very good magazine. I know these people are brilliant, but I could not get my head around that whole concept. How can women not be brilliant? So I said, I'm going to just make a quick list of the first few brilliant people I can think of, and we'll disprove this whole theory, right? So I love making lists. Don't you all love making lists? I have lists about everything. Anyway, I digress. So I made a quick list, and this was my list. Einstein, Newton, Tesla, Marie Curie, and Michael Faraday, just at the spot of the moment. One woman made it to my list, and she was not even on top of my list. And Marie Curie won 2 Nobel Prizes. Einstein just won 1. So why did she not make it to the top of my list? That bothered me. So I said, you know what, I just need more data. Obviously, as a scientist, I'm always looking for more data. So I picked on the next person I saw, my son, who goes to school in DC, and I said, hey, Kunal, tell me, who are the top people, brilliant people you think about? And he said, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, he goes to business school, so I guess that's part of it, but Einstein and Socrates. I'm like, okay, this didn't work. No women on this list. So I come back home, and I ask my other son, Kabir. I've been blessed with 2 sons, so anyway, I go with the people I have around me. So Kabir goes, Einstein again, Marie Curie, thank God a woman made his list, Fritz Haber, and Isaac Newton. So I asked my husband, and Isaac goes, Spielberg, Churchill, Edison, and Mr. Haber again. Now, I don't know what Fritz Haber did. I got to read up about this. I've not had time to look him up yet. But he apparently is a brilliant person who makes everybody's lists. So this was bothersome. 4 of us, we come up with 1 woman. We come up with the same woman. And I felt like this was not right. So I still want to disprove this theory. And so I go out on Twitter. And I only follow cardiologists and other physicians on Twitter. So it's a completely non-political audience. And I said, hey, guys and girls, just send me a list of some brilliant people you know. No order, no historical time, just send me a list. And I got lots of answers from all over the world from my colleagues. And I tabulated them. Being the nerd I am, I made lists again. And this is what I got back. There were 6 women on this list. And that is awful. There were so many men that I stopped writing them. I ran out of space on my slide. So I said, okay, enough already. But this was the general women that showed up on most people's lists, and these were the same women. So why is that? Why are we not having more women show up on people's lists? When we think of brilliant people, why are we not thinking of women? Why do we not know their names? We have a few token women. They represent women. That's not good enough. So when you look at that, it really goes along with what those authors said, that people don't perceive women as being brilliant. And it's a perception, but it is extremely alarming. So when we think of a stereotype of a brilliant person, this is the picture in our head. And it shows up on many lists over and over and over again. Stereotypes are like antibiotic-resistant pathogens. They can infect us, and they're so hard to get rid of. So this is a really important issue, because stereotypes can really take hold of you. So Carol Dweck, who's this brilliant social scientist, says one's belief in one's ability matters greatly in one's success. So like to unpack that, it says, if you can believe it, you can achieve it. I think Napoleon Hill said that. But if you look at these lists of brilliant people and you don't see any women there, you could potentially believe that maybe women aren't brilliant. And that is a big problem. So when does this start? How do we get there? So Carol and her colleagues did some really elegant research, and they said when kids are 5 years old, both boys and girls believe that they're equally smart. They both think they're really, really smart. But by the age of seven, boys believe that their great grades are because of innate ability, and girls believe that their great grades are because of hard work. Now, what happens in those 2 years that makes these children believe this? Children just didn't come out of the free air. They've heard this over and over again from their teachers, their parents, the media, the world around them. And children are like sponges. They absorb everything around them. They internalize it. They believe it. All these grown-ups around them, they're obviously telling them the truth, right? But this can change the entire trajectory of their lives. This belief, and we don't even know what this belief is based on, but this persistent belief is changing lives. So let me tell you a story. I was recently out to lunch with a friend of mine who's a physician, and I told her, look, I'm giving this TED talk, and I'm just, this is my topic, and we were just talking about things, and she said she has a daughter who's just started preschool, and she says, you'll have a great laugh about this. She said, my daughter came home the other day from school and said, Mommy, can you believe that boys can be doctors too? Because in her life, all the doctors she knew were women. Her mother was a doctor. Her mother's friends were doctors. She knew no guys who were doctors. So it does make a difference. I have a patient I've been seeing for many years, and she's been bringing her granddaughter to the office. She's raising this child, and this girl's been coming to my office since she was a baby. And she's now, I think, in first grade. And the other day, she was in the office, and she tapped me on the shoulder and said, Dr. Singh, I'm going to be a doctor just like you when I grow up and take care of my grandma, because she has seen this. She believes this is completely possible. So seeing is believing. And so it is important to be seen. I have faith in women. I believe women can do anything. I believe they're amazing, they're brilliant, they can run the entire world, and they can do it better than what we've had done before. But having faith is not enough. We need more women. We need more women everywhere, doing everything. So let me ask you a riddle. A father and son were going down the road, and they were involved in a horrible, horrible traffic crash. Father dies on the spot. The sons rush to the emergency room. The surgeon on call comes down to take this child to the operating room and stops and says, I can't operate on this child. This is my son. Now, how do you think this child is related to the surgeon? So this was a question that I put to many people I know, people I work with, people at home, my friends, and I got some really interesting answers. And one was that this is the child's stepfather. The second was the child's parents are a gay couple, and this is the other partner. Third, the conspiracy theorists, they said that guy in the car was not the father at all. So, the fake news guys said there was no car accident. This is just a made-up story. But the real answer, that the surgeon was the boy's mother, was something that 70% of people were not able to figure out. And that doesn't mean that they are bad people. It just means that the stereotype of being a surgeon is still a man. So I think that it's important for us to recognize that these stereotypes do exist. And the people I asked were other physicians that were smart people and not anybody who thought of themselves as having stereotypes. Oops, I missed a slide. Okay, anyway, so as a slide that just went by, you saw, in medicine, we've done a much better job of recruiting more women. So as medical students, in 1980, there were only about 20% of medical students were women. Now, about 47% of medical students are women. But when you get to cardiology, which is my specialty, only 13% of cardiologists are women. And that is a number that has remained steady over the last 15 years. Now, why do you ask is that happening? So if I give my example, I went to a medical school of women, and we had 130 women in my class. 2 women are cardiologists, me and a friend of mine who's a pediatric cardiologist. I work in a group with 14 men. I've been the only woman there for the last 15 years that I've worked there. So when I was doing my internal medicine residency and I decided I wanted to be a cardiologist, I said, hey, you know what, I want to be a cardiologist. And so they said, why do you want to be a cardiologist? You have a 1-year-old child, you have a doctor, you're married to a doctor, you should try something easier. They assumed that because I was a wife, a mother, and a woman, I would want to do something different. When I went on my interviews, I was asked if I was married. I was asked if I had children. I was asked if I wanted to have more children. And, nobody ever asked me if this is what I really wanted to do. And at no point during this whole conversation did anyone say, are you capable of this job? I was the chief resident of my internal medicine residency program. I had wonderful letters. I had loved to do this. But at no point during any of these interviews did anyone question my capability of doing the job. They just questioned my desire. Or they questioned my desire because I was a wife, a mother, and a woman. So this could be very discouraging. My husband completely supported me during this time. He said, if that's what you want to do, that's what you should do. But if I looked around and looked for other women like me, and I found them in a minority, I could easily believe that this might not be for me. And I wonder how many well-meaning people were talked out of a job because they had all these questions asked for them. And when they looked around, they found nobody in their dream job who looked like them. So we all have stereotypes. Let's acknowledge the fact that we have stereotypes. Because by not acknowledging that, we are even more dangerous. So, recently we had an election, and irrespective of your politics, we could have had a woman running the free world. But that didn't happen. It was heartbreaking. But when Hillary Clinton said in her speech, to all the little girls who are watching this, never doubt that you are valuable and powerful and deserving of every chance and opportunity in the world to pursue and achieve your dreams, she just didn't pick little girls for no reason. She was talking to the right audience, because that is where our stereotypes start, and that's where they get deeply ingrained. So my wish for all of you today is please acknowledge that you have stereotypes. Challenge your stereotypes. Change the conversation so we are no longer holding our girls back from being brilliant. Thank you.